Up on the moors and the hills above Westgate, northern England, there's a vast, hidden scar. A place where the earth has been cracked open, and one of its veins laid bare. I've come here to understand how something so quiet, so forgotten, could once have helped shape a nation's future.
But first, before we dive into more detail and have a close look at this scar, this wound, we need context. And so this journey starts deep in the valley below, tracing a trail not just of geology, but of human ambition.
This is Rails and Revolutions. The history that built us, the forces that shaped us. Slitt wood feels ancient, peaceful. Sunlight flickers through the canopy, and a cool trickle follows the old watercourses. But just as you step into the trees, you notice something unusual. An old water level, once a vital drainage tunnel for the mine, now almost completely silted up and choked with debris. It hints at the hidden infrastructure beneath your feet, long abandoned but still shaping the landscape around it. As you walk deeper into the trees, something catches your eye. Straight lines amongst the trunks, the unmistakable edge of worked stone. And then, through a break in the canopy, massive moss-covered walls. The bows, ruins of an industry once alive with fire and labour. They rise from the undergrowth like the ribs of some slumbering beast. You feel the scale before you understand it. The pieces begin to align. You're not just seeing nature, you're witnessing something built, altered. The air grows still, expectant. And then, standing before it, you understand the gravity of where you are.
This was once the Slitt lead mine, one of the deepest workings in Weardale, with a history reaching back to the 17th century. Over those centuries, small-scale operations gave way to industrial mining, when in the 1800s the demand for lead soared. The Slitt vein slices through the limestone here, rich in quartz and fluorite, with veins of galena, the lead ore they had been searching so diligently for.
Physical remnants of this era still mark the landscape. The weathered reservoir perched above the woods, once vital for supplying water power. The remains of wheel pits. Washing floors. And the engine house. With the base where the steam engine was once mounted still remaining. The remains of all processing areas. And the network of shafts and adits. Telling a story of human industry intertwined with nature.
The work was brutal and dangerous. Roof collapses and flooding were constant threats, and disease ran rampant, spreading quickly through cramped quarters. Yet the miners pressed on, driven by the need to earn a living in a tough landscape. The ore extracted here helped fuel the broader industrial revolution, providing lead for pipes, paints, and ammunition. As we stand here now, it's hard to imagine the clamour of pickaxes, the creaking of winches, the voices of men echoing through these once bustling passages. But beneath the quiet, the echoes of that past endure. In Slitt's boom years around the mid-1800s, the mine employed hundreds of hard-working souls. Wages were meagre, conditions brutal, accidents were common, and records tell of riots in 1842 when their pay was delayed and families were left to starve. Conditions were such that military troops had to beat cold to guard some of the works and prevent further trouble. Imagine sharing what was basically a hovel in this area, packed with miners, no sanitation or running water, where disease was an ever-present threat and injuries common. Levels like this were cut deep into the hillside to intercept the Slitt vein. Miners sank horizontal tunnels, following the quartz-rich seam, only stopping when the ore gave out. Every foot of advancement meant drilling, wedging, carrying spoil out by the hand or pony. On a good day, a team might make 6 inches of progress. The vein itself is a ribbon of quartz and fluorite, stained orange-red by iron that seeped in later. In places, it swells to over 6 feet wide and plunges more than 500 feet below the surface. A fracture through the earth that travels east to west for over 12 miles, from Teesdale all the way into Weardale.
From the valley floor, the landscape changes. The trees thin, the wind picks up. You can see the tips of old waste heaps spilling out the Opencut like jagged scars. At last, the vista opens. West Rigg Opencut. A colossal bowl more than 600 feet long and nearly 290 feet wide, carved deep into the moorland. This is a unique place where the Slitt vein is exposed. And where you can still peer into an old level that predates the large-scale quarrying of later times. If you do look inside, you'll see rotting timbers sagging with age, and floors too fragile to cross. The level doesn't stretch far anymore, but its decaying mouth still whispers of the men who dared dig here, chasing their fortunes through stone. The faint outline of his shaft still remains like a silent sentinel, marking the entrance to an earlier age. Beneath this ground, miners once drove that level straight through the heart of the Slitt vein, a bold effort to reach the richest part of the ore body before large-scale quarrying became king.
But how did all this form? Well, during the late Permian period, extensive mineralization took place around the Slitt vein. High salinity fluids rich in iron permeated the great limestone, mineralizing it throughout its full thickness, producing siderite and anchorite minerals. Over time, these minerals oxidized, creating aluminitic ore with iron content exceeding 40%. At West Rigg, this iron mineralization extends up to 200 feet on each side of the vein, forming the rich deposits that drove mining here. In its heyday, this quarry rang with the roar of steam drills and the thunder of explosives. Thousands of tons of ore were removed, feeding furnaces at Concert, Taulor, and beyond. The iron ore extracted here was smelted into iron and steel, the backbone of Britain's industrial revolution. From railways and bridges to ships and machinery, the metal forged here helped build the infrastructure that transformed the nation. I stand at the rim now, and apart from the wind and birds, it's silent. But imagine it in the past, the sounds of drills piercing the rock, explosives shattering the rich ore, steam engines belching smoke, the sweat of hundreds of men at work. They left the Slitt vein in place, not because it was too hard, but because it contained no ironstone. Miners were after the rust-stained flats on either side. Now it stands as a quartz spine, 350 feet long and up to 16 feet wide, stretching across the quarry floor. Reminding us that we follow where nature guides. The iron ran out early in the 20th century. Machines fell silent, the trains stopped. Many miners faced unemployment and hardship, forced to leave behind the work that had defined their lives and communities for generations. Some moved on to other mining regions, like the coal fields of Durham. Others found work in the steelworks and factories in nearby towns, such as Concert and Middlesbrough, while others emigrated abroad to places like the United States, Canada, and Australia in search of new opportunities. Those who stayed endured economic decline and the loss of a way of life that the communities left behind have never fully recovered from.
Today, wildflowers burst through the waste heaps. Butterflies dance where ponies once laboured. Hikers follow these trails, unaware of the hardships that once went on below.
West Rigg teaches us that progress has a price, that silent hills can hold the memory of toil and triumph, and that every revolution, no matter how quiet, leaves its mark in the land. If you believe these stories matter, the ones held in steel, in stone, in silence, help keep them alive. Like the video, share it with someone who's walked these trails or paused at the edge and felt something stir. Subscribe for more stories from the places that shaped us, because heritage isn't just about preserving the past, it's about understanding how we carry it forward. And if there's a bridge, a street, or a forgotten corner of the Northeast you think we should explore, please let us know in the comments.
The story of this region isn't over. It's still being written. One voice, one place, one memory at a time.